And we're back for round number 4 here on our little side stream from the EUIC 2026 tournament. My god, I feel like it's going by so quickly. I can't believe it's already round 4 here. We're almost halfway done with today's part of the tournament. And the next two players that we will be featuring are James Beck versus Nicolas Kahn. So, we already got to take a look at the team sheets here. We'll take a closer look in a little bit. But how are you feeling about this matchup, Andrew?
All I see here is bolt balance, bolt balance, bolt balance. It's one of the strongest cores you can possibly see at this tournament here today, and we're going to be seeing a little bit for the first time on this stream. You know, the more standard bolt balance, you have the Incineroar, Urshifu, both are going to be the Rapid Strike variant, and Rillaboom, but there's some slight differences. You have Raging Bolt, which is actually a pretty big difference here. You have a Life Orb variant Raging Bolt that James Beck is running, with Terra Electric really trying to amp up as much damage with your Terra Electric boosted Thunderbolt or Thunderclaps, whereas Nicholas is running a Thunderclap Dragon Pulse Calm Mind boosted Raging Bolt that has Terra Fairy. So the potential on that Raging Bolt is going to be huge if it is able to set up in time. The other major differences are instead of a Chien-Pao, it's going to be a Golden Go for James Beck, the setup Nasty Plot variant. So it could be threatening a lot of Nicholas's Pokemon. The Chien-Pao is going to be something that is a little bit out of the ordinary, has Icicle Crash, but it also is going to be carrying Icy Wind, trying to drop the speed on any opposing Pokemon. The last bit of changes, you got James Beck running a speed booster, probably Flutter Mane with Moonblast, Icy Wind, Taunt, trying to be as disruptive as possible. Whereas Nicholas is going to be running that Landorus, which has the substitute attack, which could try to hide behind a substitute doll to prevent it from taking additional damage.
Yeah, and like the only two differences here are, of course, the Fluttermane and the Goldango on James' side versus on Nicholas' side. You have the Chien-Pao and the Landorus, but still two Pokemon that are quite popular to be played in combination with, you know, the Incineroar, the Urshifu, the Raging Bolt, and the Rillaboom, and like all of these Pokemon. Yeah, you know, they're the same, but as you just mentioned, you know, in within the sets, they do have their differences. The Raging Bolt you already mentioned, also the Rillaboom, one having the U-turn, the other one having the high horsepower as well. And even the Incineroars are almost identical, except for the fact that one has the safety goggles, one has the citrus berry. And like personally, I really like the citrus berry, like these defensive items on Incineroar, such as Assault Vest or Citrus Berry, just help it live a little bit longer. And who knows, you know, in a matchup like this, that could be an important difference in that one Incineroar basically does not have an item on it. It has the safety goggles, but there is no Amoonguss or Sinistcha or anything like that in this matchup here. So it is yeah, a bit of a mirror match, meaning that the leads here could definitely make a huge difference. What happens in the early game could very well make or break a set like this.
Yep, a couple notable differences from a typical Bolt Balance matchup. Nicholas is running Terra Ghost Incineroar, whereas James Beck is running Terra Flying Incineroar, so trying to keep it alive from those Landorus attacks, Ursaluna attacks, or any other ground type attacks, maybe even potentially against a Rillaboom. And speaking of Rillaboom, we also have a little bit of a difference. Both are running Assault Vest, pretty much the same starting moves, Woodhammer, Grassy Glide, Fake Out, but James Beck is going to be running the high horsepower, trying to get as much ground type attack damage as possible, whereas Nicholas is running the U-turn Rillaboom, trying to repivot into other Pokemon in the back, trying to have as much flexibility on your team as possible. And lastly, the Urshifu on James' side is Terra Fire, so not trying to get that damage boost on Terra Water, trying to really increase your defensive Terra against other Pokemon, like other Fire-type Pokemon or other Rillaboom, just making it so that you live other attacks also does give you that burn immunity, very helpful. Nicholas is going to be running Terra Steel Urshifu, so getting the plentiful resistances that you get from Terra Steel are going to be huge in this matchup as well.
Yeah, just generally the Slanderous here on Nicholas's side is looking really nice into James Beck's team, especially if you commit the Terra there on the defensive side and also the offensive side, give the Sludge Bomb a boost as well. But that is definitely a threat that James will have to take care of sooner than later, and, not take care of it too late. But with these balanced teams, the games can always swing in either direction at any point. And even though, the early games, they are important, whatever happens in the early game can also, you know, you can still make a comeback in the later stages of a set like this.
Yeah, I do believe that, turn one lead is going to be very important, especially if one favors the other very heavily. But it's going to be about that mid game and thinking into the future. How can you leverage your board position to better position yourself later on? When playing the Bolt Balance matchup, it's really coming down to, can I just find the one opening to really blow a hole into your opponent? If you can find a way to just get a Draco Meteor off into, let's say, an Urshifu, and get a KO, that's really good because it means that the Urshifu is not on the board anymore. Yeah, you're forcing a switch in, but now the Urshifu's damage output wouldn't be able to KO something like an Incineroar or potentially get a KO onto another Urshifu, or even just getting Surging Strikes damage into any of the other Pokemon, respectively. So it's really about trying to find a way to position yourself in a way that you're not going to lose a Pokemon, but being able to find an opening your opponent. It's easier said than done, but I think it's even harder, especially in the fact that this is a near mirror match.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like, I mean, both of these players have probably played the mirror match before, if I'd had to guess, in their preparations. But, like, even if you might know, okay, what do I lead here? You may have stuff like that figured out, but I feel like it's really difficult to flowchart a matchup like this, in terms of preparing for it. So, really, both players are going to have to do a good job at adapting to what their opponent does here. And like already team preview is already a very important part here. I mean, it always is, but I feel like in a mirror match like this, even more so.
Yeah, because it's not like they're running the same moves, and we don't know what the um stat distribution is going to be on certain of these Pokemon. We could be seeing a faster Incineroar on James's side potentially, or potentially we could be seeing a slower Incineroar on James's side. So the small stat differences really do end up making a huge difference. The Rillaboom that has the U-turn attack, what if it goes first and then ends up KOing a Rillaboom on the other side before it can actually use an attack on its own? So that's one of the things we'll have to see. We'll have to keep an eye out on potential speed ties. That would be one of the more unique and funny interactions where we see in mid-turn and say, oh, they're speed tying. Now we get to see who gets to move first. But on game one, and especially in team preview, you don't know those interactions. You don't know how speed is going to interact, especially on the Pokemon of the same species. You just kind of have to say, what is the best that I can do for game number one? And we go from there. That's pretty much it.
Exactly, and there is potential here that with a little bit of help from maybe the Splutter main and its speed control, that something like a Goldengo can just go for a nasty plot and fire off Make It Rains, and that will be that. But it is going to be Landorus and Rillaboom here facing off against Incineroar and the Urshifu. So, like, yeah, four very important Pokemon here on the field right away, and the grassy terrain is going to be set up here. We have the Firewater Grass Core on the field, and then the Landorus, which also popular Pokemon to be seen with the squad.
Absolutely. And now we don't see another copy. So no double Incineroar, no double Urshifu, no double Landorus, obviously, and no double Rillaboom. So we're going to be seeing a complete set of Pokemon on the field. The Rillaboom does have the fake out advantage here because it most likely is going to be the faster Rillaboom compared to the Incineroar. So you could definitely go for a fake out and fake out trade, just trying to make it a null turn to just say, hey, I don't want to lose anything here. Incineroar are going to be switching out into the back, not even going to try to go for that fake out, trying to reposition. Rillaboom coming in on the side. The Urshifu deciding, hey, I'm probably going to get faked out anyway. Let's just go for Protect, make sure I survive anything like an Earth Power or Sludge Bomb onto this Urshifu. Let's see what the Landorus goes for, and it's going to be that Earth Power into the Rillaboom.
Yeah, that's gonna take that very, very nicely, but of course is threatened by something like a Sludge Bomb in the next turn. Of course, like everything's threatening each other here. There's the fake out pressure from the Rillaboom, there's Surging Strike's pressure to go into the Landorus, but then again, there's also the pressure of a Grass Type attack going into that Urshifu. So, in a turn like this, figuring out, okay, what do I want to do? What do I want to switch? Is there a Terra I want to commit already this early into the mirror match? And Nicholas is going to opt for a switch out here from the Landorus going into the Raging Bolt. Now that's a Pokemon that looks really nice here against James Beck's although the Rillaboom of course does have the option of going for a high horsepower, but that's probably not going to happen this turn. And the Incineroar comes out here as well, so a double switch on Nicholas's side as the Rillaboom goes for a fake out into that switching in Incineroar, and the Surgery Strikes into the Raging Bolt is going to take that very, very nicely.
Yeah, I do love this from Nicholas, deciding that because of the Rillaboom and the Urshifu, you can get a pretty good switch in. Now you have your Raging Bolt threatening the Urshifu on James's side of the field. You just swapped in the Incineroar, and most likely the Urshifu was not going to click Surging Strikes into Nicholas's Rillaboom, now the Incineroar, so you were able to get a great switch in. You have Fake Out onto both of these Pokemon. The Urshifu definitely could just go for a Protect, try to buy the time with the Fake Out, or just deciding, hey, I want to switch back out into Rillaboom, try to give me an extra resistance. But you also have to keep in mind, this is a Calm Mind Raging Bolt, so every turn that you let this Raging Bolt set up with the Calm Mind just means that it's going to be doing even more damage with its special attack boosted moves in the Thunderclap and Dragon Pulse later on in this match. Not many special attackers on the field at the moment, but again, you do not want to let this Raging Bolt go to town.
And one way you can slow it down a little bit is, of course, bringing in that Incineroar and getting off a parting shot. But that's also only going to be lowering special attack, not the special defense, but okay, you have 3 physical attackers that you've revealed so far anyway. But that still requires Incineroar to switch out. It's not like you can constantly spam Parting Shot to keep it low, but that Thunderclap is barely going to miss the KO on that Urshifu. Calculations once again absolutely on point there as a Surging Strikes comes out into the switching in Rillaboom, going to take that very nicely as the grass type that it is. And the Raging Bolt here did not set up for a Calm Mind yet, but that is still very much an option for Nicholas.
Yep, that Urshifu almost certainly is going to be trained to live an attack from a Thunderclap Raging Bolt. So it was able to survive on, I would have to imagine, is close to 1 HP. It's going to survive the turn, but you still have to contend with the fact that the Raging Bolt could go for another Thunderclap, not trying to risk that mind game, deciding to switch the Rillaboom out, or switch the Urshifu out into the Rillaboom. So now you have Incineroar and Rillaboom onto the field. Fake Out going to be used on Nicholas's Rillaboom onto the Incineroar, and now we have a null turn from James trying to repivot, but more importantly, this Raging Bolt gets its first Calm Mind of the set, and both of James's Pokemon do not want to see that.
Yeah, absolutely not, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's not the last Calm Mind we see here. Of course, James does have the option to go for like a Fake Out and then a Parting Shot into Raging Bolt. Raging Bolt could very well also just Protect here. And that is something the Rillaboom can't do, so, you know, if you're James, do you just go for a double up into the Rillaboom? But you can't really ignore the Raging Bolt. If that continues to set up Calm Minds, that is gonna be bad news very, very soon. And yeah, you have the option to go for something like a high horsepower, but you can't lose your Rillaboom too early here. So James is gonna go and switch it out for a Flutter Mane. Now that is a Pokemon that can handle Raging Bolt a little bit better, although, you know, those special defense boosts, once they get up there, then it's gonna be taking fairy moves well also. And it is gonna go for a Protect here, so it does not want to take a double up. The Rillaboom gonna go for a Fake Out, or for a U-turn here into the Flutter Mane and give Nicholas a chance to reposition himself as well, just a little bit. And yeah, it's gonna bring in maybe the Landorus? Yeah, it's gonna be the Landorus coming in here to threaten this Incineroar a bit, although, who knows, it might switch out with a Parting Shot. No, it's gonna go into the Protect.
Yeah, this Landorus is now well positioned. You could go for a substitute, but you also have to consider that the Flutter Mane on James' side of the field does have the Icy Wind attack, even though Icy Wind is not a strong attack by itself, and Flutter Mane might not have the highest special attack stat, considering it might be a little bit bulkier, since a lot of Flutter Manes more lately have been trying to go the bulkier variant. It's still going to do a lot of damage because Landorus is 4 times weak to that Icy Wind, so you have to be careful. We already saw how much the Thunderclap was able to do into the Urshifu, and look that it's still in the back, but it doesn't have a lot of his HP. A lot of this matchup is going to come down to how well can you preserve your HP on your Pokemon. So you do not want to let this Landorus take unnecessary amounts of HP here. Let's see what happens during the turn. Terastallization going to be used on Nicholas's side, going to get rid of that ground and flank weakness to a poison type, so going to increase the damage output on its poison type Sludge Bomb attack, but more importantly, getting rid of that 4 times weakness to Icy Wind, as we see a counter Terra on James' side of the field.
So yeah, both players deciding that this is the turn where they want to commit that Terra, and it is going to be the Terra flying Incineroar, just to give the Landorus an even harder time to hit anything on this team. And Icy Wind gonna come out here into the Raging Bolt, and Landorus gonna be reducing that speed on both of these Pokemon, as Landorus goes for a Sludge Bomb, does not go for a ground move, respecting the Terra Flying, and the Flutter Mane taking so much damage from that, and Incineroar now going for that Parting Shot. So the Terra Flying now, of course, means that, yeah, the Landorus could not hit you with an Earth Power in that turn, but, you know, there's a Raging Bolt on the field here that has a Thunderclap move. But on the other hand, again, maybe you don't even have to go for a attacking move, you know? You can just go for Parting Shots and then avoid getting hit by a Thunderclap. So, not a bad Terra there at all from James, as another Calm Mind up here for this Raging Bolt against this Flutter Mane that, is not a bad damage dealer, but it's getting harder and harder by the second to wither down this Raging Bolt.
Yeah, and the fact that the Raging Bolt does have that leftovers recovery item means that it's just going to recover that HP a little bit more, on top of the fact that these Rillabooms have been switching in and out of the battle constantly, meaning that the grassy terrain keeps getting replenished throughout this battle. So it means that the damage that you would have been able to put onto this Raging Bolt is kind of null, as we do see that it has taken another Calm Mind boost, getting it to at least +2 special defense. And it did take that Parting Shot, but now it's back up to at least +1 special attack, meaning that it's going to be doing some significant amount of damage still onto this turn, but deciding, hey, I'm going to protect here. That Rillaboom just switched in. I don't want to have to deal with a potential Moonblast and Fake Out combination to keep its HP all the more green and healthy, as high horsepower trying to do as much damage. That is probably your highest value attack to go into Raging Bolt. It's going to bypass that special defense stat completely because it is a physical move.
Yeah, and now you don't want to, have to deal with the threat of that happening again in the next turn, so you bring in your Rillaboom here to threaten a Fake Out into the opposing Rillaboom, which, it would leave the Flutter Mane by itself in going for a Moonblast into this Raging Bolt, but as we said, it should take that fairly nicely now at +2 special defense, and the Flutter Mane may also be in range for something like a Thunderclap. Let's see if it's enough. It is enough at +1 to get that KO. Flutter Mane, great special defenses, but not that great. Apparently, as the Fake Out, flinch as James Baek's Rillaboom. So that is the first KO of this game 1, and it is an important one for sure.
And here comes the Incineroar on the back. Only 3 Pokemon left for James Baek, but look at that. It's going to be scary. It's a Terra flying Incineroar. So guess what? It means that a Thunderclap attack into the Incineroar is going to be doing super effective damage when you're already at +1 special attack. It means you're doing all the more. Even still, Dragon Pulse is going to be doing good damage into that Incineroar, or even the Rillaboom respectively, as we do see another Rillaboom onto Nicholas's side of the field. Raging Bolt deciding, hey, I do not want to deal with a Fake Out high horsepower attack. Going to go for the Protect this turn. Rillaboom on Nicholas's side is going to be faster than James's side of the field, at least that we know of for now. That's good information for later. Deciding to switch into something in the back, could go for an Incineroar, and guess what? Dropping the attacks stats on both Pokemon with that Incineroar's Intimidate ability.
Yeah, we just saw Nicholas's entire team as he was switching out there. You saw how much health he still has on all of his Pokemon. A knock of an high horsepower into the Incineroar here is gonna knock off the safety goggles. Nicholas is not gonna care about that too much. But yeah, this is his first Pokemon that's now in the orange HP range. Everything else is like almost still at full HP or just straight up at full HP. And James has already lost a Pokemon, and his Rillaboom has taken a little bit of damage and is taking even more here from this fake out. And the Incineroar is going to keep going for those parting shots. Does not want the Raging Bolt to get too many special attack boosts. But really, the Raging Bolt not all too bothered by that right now, especially now that James is down one Pokemon. This pivoting around and stuff is also on just as much as a timer. And we see the Urshifu is going to go down now to this Dragon Pulse. It already took a Thunderclap earlier, and now James is down to his last two Pokemon. Can't do any more switching, can't get off... or I mean, you can still go for the parting shots and, you don't switch out. But you really don't have any offensive pressure on the field here against this Raging Bolt.
Yep, the Rillaboom on James Beck's side still has that high horsepower, so there's still a chance that this Raging Bolt could end up falling, but it's been such a tough way to break through all of this defense. The Rillaboom and Incineroar constantly switching in and out means that James is not doing that much damage. The fake out's constantly putting Raging Bolt in situations where it can get those free hits in, and James recognizing this is not a winnable position, deciding to not play out the rest of this game and just gonna head into game number 2.
Yeah, no, at that point, even though you have the high horsepower on the Rillaboom, I think you'd need not just one crit, probably a few, because there is the Intimidate, of course, that Nicholas can still cycle around, and you can't switch out anymore with only 2 Pokemon left. So, yeah, James realizing that it's an unwinnable position, does not want to give up any more information, got enough from that first game, and is ready to make some adjustments for game 2. Question is, like, what adjustments do you make? Like, this Raging Bolt was still at full HP at the end of that, and what can you really do to change that? Do you bring in your own Raging Bolt? Do you try to position the Flutter Mane? Maybe, try to time it perfectly so that you get the Flutter Mane in a position where the Raging Bolt does not have any special defense boosts yet, and you can actually get a Moonblast off. Like, it just went for a Protect, and it is maybe not in a great position to switch, and there's also no Fake Out pressure on the field. I mean, how do you do that? It is really, really complicated.
See, the problem in this matchup is if you're James, you really do want to bring in that Raging Bolt. You get the benefit from the grassy terrain, healing as well as, Nicholas's Raging Bolt. The problem comes down to the fact that the Landorus exists. Landorus is going to be threatening the Raging Bolt on James's side of the field so much because it is Terra Electric, so any Earth Power into that Raging Bolt is always going to stick and do super effective damage. And obviously, because the Landorus has Protect, any turns that you want to go for Fake Out and an attack on Raging Bolt, you can just Protect through it. You would have to outplay your opponent so hard to just get to that one board state that I don't think the Raging Bolt is going to come here for James. But James really doesn't have a better option. We saw the Urshifu Rillaboom Incineroar lead on top of having Flutter Mane, but it's not able to, break through a very bulky defensive core of that Rillaboom, Incineroar, and Raging Bolt on Nicholas's side. You kind of want to have Golden Go, but it's also not that great either because it can just go and keep its Terra Electric, meaning that it's resisting those Make It Rains.
Yeah, it is a really tough spot here for James that Landorus is doing so much work, even just in team preview alone. And we saw that it didn't even really mind that the Incineroar had the Terra Flying, it just went for the Sludge Bomb, and really, Nicholas doing a great job at chipping away at James' team so that then a Thunderclap could get the KO on the Flutter Mane, and you can easily get the KO on the Urshifu later, and that's 2 KOs already. And as soon as you have those 2 KOs, and it's only Incineroar and Rillaboom left on the field, then you've pretty much already got it.
Absolutely. Hopefully we can see what happens, what kind of adjustments James is going to make in this next game. We'll get that up to you real soon. They're in team preview right now, I believe, and hopefully we can see what James is able to do. Again, it's going to be tough for him to have this uphill battle against the Raging Bolt. Nicholas is almost certainly going to be bringing Raging Bolt again, and the fact that it is the Combine variant makes it flip on the matchup because, again, if you're able to set up 1, maybe even 2 Combines, it also means that the Golden Go is not doing that much damage. Even if it decided to go for Terra Fairy and you have to deal with the Golden Go, make it rain, it's not going to be doing that much. It's basically meaning that the Terra that it had is becoming a neutrality. You also don't have a lot of special attack offense out of the Fluttermane either. Yeah, you have Moonblast, but how are you getting your Fluttermane in a position where you're, one, hitting the Raging Bolt for decent damage, and two, the Fluttermane can't really protect itself from like 2 attacks from like an Incineroar or a Rillaboom, so it's going to go down pretty quick. Yeah, you have Taunt, you have Icy Wind, but again, the Landorus is putting a lot of pressure too to just get rid of this Fluttermane as well.
Yeah, and so I think that is the key here. But even if you can like get the Landorus into a position where you can target it with something like a Surging Strikes, the Terra Poison is something I think Nicholas can easily commit here. It's a really good defensive as well as offensive Terra here for him, and he's not really forced to commit his Terra in anything else. So yeah, we're gonna have to see how these players play this game too here. It's gonna be Rillaboom and Urshifu here on James's side versus Landorus and Rillaboom on Nicholas's side. So this time there are 2 Rillabooms on the field.
Yep, both Rillabooms on the field. We know that the Nicholas's Rillaboom was faster in game number 1. It got a U-turn into James's Rillaboom first, so that is going to be important for the Fake Out wars that are about to come. So you'd have to imagine that Nicholas is going to use Fake Out into either of James's Pokemon first. Looks like Nicholas not wanting to contend with the Urshifu Rapid Strike, going to be switching it out into the Incineroar, but that's also going to be a Pokemon that's weak to a Water type attack. But it's great to at least drop the Intimidate down onto both Pokemon on the first turn of the game, as James decides to switch out his Rillaboom into Incineroar, now dropping both stats onto both the Incineroar and Rillaboom on Nicholas's side. Let's see how the turn plays out. Protect from Urshifu, trying to make sure that it stays healthy at least through the first turn of the game. Fake Out looks like it went into that Protect, so pretty null turn, but those Intimidate drops are going to matter here.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And now both players once again have the Incineroar on the field, so they can go for even more Fake Out, because that is what we love about this team, is that we can go for Fake Out every single turn. Except that, having Rillaboom and Incineroar on the field means that really there's no way for you to like click Fake Out this turn and also have it next turn, unless something goes down in this turn, and I don't think that's gonna happen. So we're gonna have to see which Incineroar here is faster and manages to get off the Fake Out, and whether or not this Urshifu might want to switch because it does not want to take like a Fake Out plus a Wood Hammer. Or maybe we're just gonna say I double Fake Out into, both of these Pokemon, and it's gonna be another rather empty turn. But I still think the Urshifu here, like technically, if the Urshifu went for like a Surging Strikes into Incineroar and you trade your Incineroar for the Urshifu KO, it's probably still okay. If you're Nicholas, you're probably fine with making that trade, but there's also really no reason to not just switch out the Incineroar. And that's exactly what's gonna happen. We're gonna see the Incineroar switch out here for this Raging Bolt, and I'm guessing the Urshifu on James' side is also going to switch. No, it's going to go for another Protect.
Yep, trying to keep itself healthy again. Oh, actually the U-turn went into the Urshifu spot, so that means that the Rillaboom is actually going to be staying on the field. I imagine that Nicholas really wanted to get Incineroar back on the field, provide another usage of Fake Out, and set up at least one Calm Mind on the Raging Bolt, or even just to make sure that the Urshifu on this turn has to either switch out or has to accept taking a Thunderclap here on this upcoming turn. But now we're in a situation where this Raging Bolt has taken a little bit more damage than it wants to, on top of the fact that it did lose that leftovers healing item. So it means that that extra HP health regain at the end of each turn is no longer going to be happening in this game number 2. Only HP regain is going to be coming from that grassy terrain healing.
And that is something that James is probably very, very happy about, because we saw how much recovery just made it so much more difficult in that game 1. So not having those leftovers to deal with anymore on the Raging Bolt is something he definitely appreciates. The U-turn is going to go into this Goldango that switched in, so another adjustment here from James, bringing the Goldango with him this time. But the U-turn just came out, and Nicholas is ready to bring in that Landorus against said Goldango. and threatening both Pokemon here actually with an Earth Power. You can't protect them both, you can't Terra them both, and the Dragon Pulse here, a little bit of damage to the Incineroar, which is going to go for a parting shot and probably bring in another Fake Out user, since I don't think you bring in the Urshifu here. I think you always have to bring the Rillaboom in here.
Yeah, one would have to imagine you want to bring in something that can fake out this Landorus. This Raging Bolt has not been able to go for a Calm Mind in this set so far, and it just took a parting shot from the Incineroar on James's side of the field. So it's now at -1 special attack, so it's not actually going to be doing that much damage into either the Rillaboom or the Golden Go. It's probably going to have to try to set up to do any more meaningful damage. But right now, the scariest Pokemon in the field is going to be this Landorus. It's threatening a lot of damage output onto both the Rillaboom and the Golden Go, respectively, either with its Sludge Bomb attack or Earth Power. But let's see how Nicholas is going to try to position himself to get a KO here. Both players have not taken a successful KO. It's just been a lot of repositioning, retooling, trying to find the opening that you need. The Incineroar are going to be switching in, dropping that Intimidate onto that Rillaboom, which will matter later on. It's not going to matter onto that Golden Go. Fake Out going to be used into the protecting Landorus, keeping itself safe for this turbo. Let's see what the Golden Go goes for. It's going to be that nasty plot, so it's increasing its special attack. So this is going to be a crucial turn. Will the Golden Go be able to get a proper attack off this next turn?
It could be a very, very huge turn here for this Goldengo. Its Terra type is the Terra Fairy, so that means once you go for the Terra Fairy, you know, you're not weak to Earth Power anymore, but you are weak to Sludge Bomb, but it's like a crazy call to make to just straight up go for a Sludge Bomb into the Goldengo calling the Terra. But otherwise, if it doesn't Terra, it's weak to both Incineroar and Landorus, and to a lot of moves it can throw at them, but it is just going to be a Fake Out here into the Incineroar, and Landorus actually going to go for a Substitute here to, is going to be able to take at least one hit, but the Make It Rain coming out is going to immediately break that Substitute again, and the Incineroar actually took a very good amount of damage, you know, it being resistant and it being an Incineroar. That is just the power of Nasty Plot to you right there. And now the Incineroar that just came in, of course, has the ability to go for another Fake Out. Like, the fact that you went for Substitute there means that you can protect now and dodge that Fake Out and Make It Rain combo.
Yeah, at least now you force the Golden Go on James's side to use at least one Make It Rain. So now it's only at +1 special attack, which is still going to be doing significant amount of damage even into an Incineroar. Obviously not carrying the Assault Vest, but it was able to take around 33% of its HP just from a +2 Make It Rain. You'd have to imagine how much it's going to be able to do from +1, still a decent amount. Like you mentioned, the Landorus did go for a Substitute. It could go for Protect this turn, but it's not going to. It's going to just call out, going for the Earth Power into the Golden Go. That is going to be a huge, crucial piece gone for James Baek, not having the access to attacking anymore with that Golden Go, as the Incineroar on Nicholas's side is going to hit a parting shot into James's Incineroar, switching out into the back. Now getting to choose mid-turn which Pokemon you want to go into. You could go into the Rillaboom or the Raging Bolt. Is going to be the Rillaboom, setting down another grassy terrain from the Grassy Surge ability. The Incineroar on James' side is yet to move, but it looks like it's just going to be a parting shot in retaliation to drop the attack onto the Rillaboom. It's going to switch back out. More crucially, James only now has physical attackers again in this game number 2, while still having the Raging Bolt up in the back.
Yeah, a really good call there from Nicholas, gets that correct and takes out the Goldengo. Now the Urshifu is coming back in here together with the Rillaboom. So yeah, you have Fake Out pressure on the field, you have the Urshifu on the field, but man, the Slanderous now already got one important KO, and you have to probably switch it out here, maybe into a Raging Bolt, to, you know, not have this Urshifu go for 8 Surging Strikes into that slot. But it's not over yet, of course not, but James being down one Pokemon again is now making it easier for Nicholas to try and get a KO on another Pokemon and then seal the game.
Absolutely. James is only down to 3 Pokemon. Nicholas still has all 4. And realizing that, hey, I got to be careful with this Rillaboom that switched in. Fake Out is online, getting the Incineroar in instead of the Landorus means that you can keep that Landorus healthy, dropping the attack stat on Rillaboom on James's side, getting another fake out into the Urshifu. Rillaboom going to go for a high horsepower, even calling out the switch on the Landorus side. That is a very risky maneuver, but James saying, I have to call it out, getting some crucial damage in onto the Incineroar. Does not get the first KO, though, on Nicholas's Pokemon. Now, Nicholas does have the fake out active on the Incineroar, could potentially get something here and just extend the Pokemon lead if the Rillaboom on Nicholas's side of the field were able to attack into the Urshifu.
Yeah, I think James realizes that he is behind right now and he has to make calls like these. And honestly, they're fair to make, right? Because there's just oftentimes one correct switch in a position like that, and sometimes you just have to make that call. Urshifu is gonna go for a protect here to not take any grass type moves from the Rillaboom. Incineroar just gonna go for a fake out into the opposing Incineroar and gets followed up by a U-turn here, as well as the Citrus Berry from James's side procs there, and gives Nicholas an opportunity to switch out once more. And here again, you probably bring in the Raging Bolt, yeah, because the Landorus you really want to save for that. Like, you're really good against Incineroar and Rillaboom, so once the Urshifu is taken care of, then it has free reign to just finish up the match. And so you bring in the Raging Bolt here. Once again, it gives you an opportunity to switch out the Incineroar one more time, right? Question is, what do you do with the Raging Bolt here? Do you just go for a Thunderclap? Do you just go for Dragon Pulse? Do you finally try to set up a Calm Mind? What are your options here?
There's not a lot of options you're going to be able to go for your James. Again, the Rillaboom has the strongest matchup into this Raging Bolt, but getting in a position while the Landorus and honestly the Incineroar are still up, it's going to be a tough one to grasp. James is trying to find a way into this match as much as possible, but Nicholas is making it so hard with the Pokemon and the team building that they have been able to accomplish so far in this tournament. Nicholas could be moving on to a 4-0 record in this tournament. EUIC, one of the best events in the entire circuit, in the entire season. Incineroar going for that fake out, and Urshifu just going for the surging strikes into the Raging Bolt, trying to just get as much damage into that giant dragon Pokemon as you can. But obviously, the grassy terrain is going to nullify some of those attacks into the Raging Bolt. Going to be a null turn otherwise. The Rillaboom was able to switch in on this turn, and guess what? We're going to be talking about another fake out potentially into this Incineroar or Urshifu, and the Raging Bolt has free reign to get an attack off here.
Barely seen any fake out this game so far, so I'm really excited for this next turn. Now, the Urshifu is going to switch out here for the Rillaboom that's going to come back in here, and it's like the damage on the Raging Bolt was definitely important, because if you manage to do that a few more times, it's going to go down, and that's an important threat off the field there. But the Rillaboom gonna get to go for a U-turn here to bring back the Incineroar, to fire off that double Intimidate into both the Rillaboom and Incineroar on James's side, and it gives Raging Bolt an opportunity to go for a Dragon Pulse, or maybe even set up a Calm Mind here.
We're experiencing some technical difficulties on our end. The screen is currently frozen, so hopefully we'll be able to get that back up before you. We did see the Incineroar did switch in on that turn, so if we don't get the conclusion of that game, we'll try to get it to you as soon as possible. But, you know, I think we have to say right there, it's looking really good for Nicholas. If you bring in the Incineroar, you have the ability to go for another Fig on the following turn. You're not threatened by the Urshifu or the Rillaboom, really. Maybe the worst thing that could happen is you could have to take a close combat from the Urshifu. But again, if you're the Raging Bolt, you could just go for Thunderclap into the Urshifu, and you have to constantly think about that. And let's look at the game again. We're going to get the positions up and right in just a moment. Looks like we're on the other point of view this time around. So we're going to be looking at James's point of view, because the Raging Bolt was on Nicholas's team. So a little bit of a different perspective. And it looks like a close combat into Nicholas's Raging Bolt actually going to get a KO here. So a little bit of a different swing of momentum.
Yeah, and the Flare Blitz here from the Incineroar are going to go into that Rillaboom, deal about half damage. Now, the Raging Bolt, that was definitely an important KO there, but now you still have the Landorus to deal with. That's the second KO you need to get rid of. It's, I think, a little bit of a game of who manages to take out the opposing Landorus or opposing Urshifu first. Even so, we can see on Nicholas's side, the Rillaboom and the Incineroar are at very low HP already. And I believe Nicholas and James, they both also still have Terra options open. So the Landers here doesn't necessarily have to take a Surging Strikes. It can just go for a Terra Poison. Although, if you're Nicholas, it means you can hit it with a high horsepower as well. But it's just going to switch out that Urshifu for the Incineroar right now. Fire off that Intimidate. And the Incineroar is going to switch out as well and bring in that Rillaboom.
Rillaboom is going to be healthy. No grassy terrain was set up during the turn, so we got another 5 turns of grassy terrain activated for some additional extra healing, especially for James's Pokemon. They're so low in HP, and maybe the little bit of HP recovery could matter later on. We're going to see a Terra Poison coming from this Landorus, trying to boost its offensive output, but also trying to make sure that it's going to be resisting certain key hits. Sludge Bomb going into that Incineroar are going to be able to pick up that low HP Pokemon, sending it back to its Pokeball and forcing the Urshifu to switch in once again. High horsepower on James Beck's Rillaboom, not able to do that much damage into the Rillaboom on Nicholas's side, and we could be seeing a potential checkmate situation coming up here. The Rillaboom that Nicholas had just switched in now has that fake out active once again, could be trying to use it into that Urshifu that has to switch in, and the Landorus could just go for a potential Sludge Bomb into the Rillaboom to get the final KO it needs to say, hey, this game is all but over.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're seeing the momentum kind of being swung slowly but surely back into James's favor. That Raging Bolt KO there was definitely an important one, and we're starting to see why so. And now the second Terra here is going to be committed, is going to be onto the Rillaboom here, which is going to be Terra Fire. So, yeah, gonna be able to resist a Sludge Bomb once, but now you're weak to the Earth powers, of course. And the Fake Out is gonna go into the Urshifu here, as a Sludge Bomb comes out from this Landorus. It's gonna be into that Rillaboom, and it's not gonna be able to survive it because of the critical hit. I wonder if that mattered, and if the Terra Fire was there specifically to live that round, and now things are looking dire.
Yeah, this is not where you want to be, because now this Rillaboom only has one more target that it needs to hit. It's going to be that water type Urshifu. You would use that Terrestrialization to try to make sure that you survive the turn and get a retaliation attack with that Rillaboom of yours. So that is going to be a concession on the turn. Nicholas is going to be your winner of round number 4 stream match here on the side stream. And what a complete game. We saw game number 1 going down to the wire, but it ended up being a clean victory for Nicholas. In game number 2, we did see a potential swing in the matchup where the Raging Bull did end up going down, but I think ultimately that Landorus was the MVP of that entire set.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And even in the end there, like if the Rillaboom had not gone down to that critical hit, then it would not have been over yet. That's why he committed that Terra in that turn, or realized I need to live this turn with the Rillaboom, otherwise it's over. Which is why when it did go down, he just locked in the forfeit, because at that point there really was no coming back from that.
Yeah, especially when you think about it. If you think about, Terra Poison, Sludge Bomb, Sheer Force boosted with a Life Orb, you would probably think it would be able to KO the Rillaboom outright. It had maybe just under 50% HP. The critical hit, I would almost certainly had to have mattered to some degree, but also Landorus is a very strong Pokemon, but we obviously don't know how strong or how bulky the Rillaboom was ultimately, so we don't have that information to look at. If that didn't KO, that Rillaboom on James's side could have gone for a high horsepower into that Landorus and could have swung some momentum, but ultimately I think because of the Incineroar in the back and the Rillaboom still being up, that the Rillaboom on Nicholas's side still had a pretty good advantage going into that Urshifu.
Yeah, absolutely. And my god, what a match that was. But as much as I like to feature all these crazy teams and whatever, I think featuring also two balanced teams facing off against each other like this. It is something that happens more often than not since it is a very popular team. So I'm glad we got to showcase that as well. And we're ready to go into a break. We will be right back for our next round.